Well, hello there. Today I'm going to show you how to find an inverse of a matrix in the fastest way possible. Alright, so on my board I have a matrix that I just made up. So I'm not guaranteeing some nice neat results here, but I am going to show you the process. So if you have to find the inverse of a 3 by 3 matrix and you want to get it done fast, try this out. First of all, you have to find the determinant of the matrix. So I'm going to show you the diagonal method of finding the inverse of a 3 by 3 matrix. Here we go. First off, repeat the first two columns of your matrix. Next, draw diagonals upward and downward. Let me show you what I mean. Now let's get our upward diagonals. Now, take a look at your diagonals and start to multiply along those diagonals. Here we have negative 1 times 3 times positive 1, making negative 3. Here we have 2 times negative 1 times positive 2, which makes negative 4. And 1 times 0 times 1, which is 0. Now let's multiply along the upward facing diagonals. Here we have 2 times 3 times 1, which is 6. We have 1 times negative 1 times negative 1, which is positive 1. And finally, 1 times 0 times 2, which is 0. Now, add your results. Negative 3 plus negative 4 plus 0 is negative 7. Up here, 6 plus 1 plus 0 is positive 7. Now the technique here is bottom minus top. So whatever result you got from the bottom, subtract the top from it. Now my determinant is negative 14. Okay, so now we have the determinant. Next, we're going to get our adjoint matrix. What's going on upstairs? As you can probably tell, I'm in a basement, and so got a lot of people living above me. I happen to live up there too. Let's go ahead and get our adjoint matrix. So what we're going to do is we're going to repeat our original matrix. We have 0, 3, negative 1, and 2, 1, 1. Now, just like last time, we're going to repeat the first two columns. So we're going to do that. Negative 1, 0, 2, 2, 3, 1. And we're going to go down and repeat the first two rows. Negative 1, 2, 1, negative 1, 2, 0, 3, negative 1, 0, 3. So we have repeated the first two columns, and we have repeated the first two rows. Next, what you want to do next is start finding what I call mini determinants. They're not actually determinants, but they kind of look like them. All right. So, go down your first column, and that's going to produce our first row. So we're going to go column-wise, and we're going to write it row-wise. So we're going to do 1 times 3 minus 1 times negative 1. So we have 3 minus negative 1, creating 3 plus 1, which is 4. Next, 1 times 1 minus 2 times 1. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Next, negative 1 times 2 minus 3 times 1. Negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. excuse me, I made a mistake. Let me go back. Negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. Let's start the next column. Negative 2 minus 0 is negative 2. Remember, you go column-wise, we write row-wise. Next, negative 1 minus 2 makes negative 3. Next, 0 minus 1, this is positive 1, makes negative 1. Let's continue. So we're on the last column, which is going to produce our last row. So we have 0 minus 6 makes negative 6. 4 minus 1 makes 3. And finally, 3 minus 0 makes 3. Okay, so we now have what's called our adjoint matrix. Now our formula is 1 over the determinant of matrix A, and we are going to call this matrix A. My apologies for not defining it right up front, but that is matrix A. So we have 1 over the determinant of matrix A times the adjoint matrix. All right, so there you go. Let's go ahead and finish it out. Now, I'm going to take my determinant, which was negative 14. All right? And we're going to have 1 over negative 14 times our adjoint matrix. So we have our scalar, negative 1/14, times every term in here. All right, this first term is going to be negative 4/14. Next term will be positive 1/14. This is going to be positive 5/14. Next row. Positive 2/14, making 1/7. Positive 3/14. Positive 1/14. Positive 6/14, making 3/7. Negative 3/14. And finally, negative 3/14 again. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. This is the inverse of A. All right, so just right above it, I'm just going to write the inverse of A, and here we are. Was that fast or was that fast? Let's do an extreme close-up. All right, just as a side note, you can see I've got some new furniture in here, but here is our extreme close-up. Original matrix, first 2 columns repeated. Here is the making of our adjoint matrix. Here's our finished adjoint matrix multiplied by 1 over our determinant. And finally, the inverse. Check that on your calculator. Make sure I've done everything right. If you see any mistakes, please leave them in the comments below and I will film a correction. Anyway, I hope that helps you out. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I know how hard you're working. Trust me, I've been there. I know how tough it is seeing these things that you have only seen for the very first time and first getting used to them. Remember, frustration produces growth. So frustration is okay. Confusion produces growth, as long as you stay at it. So confusion is okay. All right? Stay with it. Keep fighting the good fight. Have a good night.